Roy in from Ridgeline Village. I apologize for the lack of content, but it's been a crazy spring and summer. This area here is the finished product on an area where the water company put a pipeline and the power for another pump station, two in total, to hook up to Garden City Water as a redundant secondary source to their own system, as the state's required. Earlier in the summer, or well, late spring, I graded all the HOA roads, all the roads I do the snow plowing on. I do the spring maintenance, add some gravel where it's needed to try and maintain them, clean the ditches, and just grade them generally, and add mag water for dust control. I'll talk more about this area and show a little bit of the process later in this video. This is the swing cylinder work I did last year. I moved them up from that spring-loaded cylinder in the center. They were underneath, very short, didn't have much leverage, and they were worn out. These have worked really well, given a lot more support, made it a lot stronger. The shoes I made are working well. You can see the clearance they give. I extended my wing about 6 inches just to give a little more throw, but not to overpower the grader. The skid steer I bought to do driveways and get in places I can't get the grader. This dozer I bought to make a dozer blade for the grader. It's off a little Dakota dozer. Cut the blade off, used some truck frame. These pieces came out of the C-frame that you saw before on the trailer. I used them to support the sides. These hook and pin plates were cut by a local machine shop. The rest of it I did in my shop. I added the stands so I could stand it up to attach and detach from it. So far it's worked really well. Helps a lot to have that blade on the front in the gravel, tucking it in corners and pushing over big piles. Been doing some finish grading. This is a local startup paving company I've been doing finish grading for. This was their first job. We had to engineer some drainage here, but it turned out pretty well. This is parking area I did for a local cabin. It's a little softer during the spring. I just didn't work it too much, and it was enough to hold the cars it's got to hold. So I went ahead and did it, even though it was a little wet. After I got it pretty well to grade, I tire rolled it. Backed it with the grader tires when I say that. This is the driveway I did with my little skid steer. Just added gravel to an existing driveway. One of the things I bought the skid steer for. This was 2 years ago. The West Bank excavation where I built my house. With the record snowfall, the subsurface water really created havoc with my slope. And this was earlier in the spring. It continued to move and got worse. Right there where the darker dirt is, and that steepest part is where my water line and my power come down from the road, which is part of the problem. The water is tracking through that former trench along the pipe. No matter how much it gets compacted, it's going to be a path for water. The multiple soil types too. There's some sandy areas, some rocky areas, silty areas. See the multiple types of soil in this bank. Like a brother-in-law of mine who's a soil scientist suggested that there's many different types of soil in this one area. And some of them are similar to soils found on the west side of the Great Basin, west side Nevada, East California, suggesting that they were together at some point. Through geologic events separated. I repaired this that spring after it dried out. Thought it was adequate. But we had another fairly heavy winter last year. And so this spring, it started to do it again in those worst areas. That's where my water line comes down on that area to the right. So I dug the whole wall out, or most of it, along that bank. I put fabric down, put some inch rock and some drain pipe, created a French drain with slope going away to that bigger area, and then it comes out in a single pipe towards the right side of that picture. Once that was done, I rebuilt the rock wall. All these rocks were either on this property or locally sourced. There are areas where the road was built where there's a lot of rock. I had permission to grab some. Most of the bigger ones were on this property. My wife was shooting this video with her phone. This is the finished product before I cleaned and sealed the driveway anyway. I've added a few more rocks in that area just to support that bank a little more. I think they'll show up in the next picture here, next video. Yeah, there's more in that line up there. I eventually want to put some more trees and things in those areas to help tie it together even more. I'd like to see it be a little more stable for a year before I do that, before I spend money on trees. This is that area that I showed at the first of the video. Just beginning to place and grade the gravel that's being delivered. The spreading wasn't the greatest, so I had to move it a lot. But it wasn't the worst I've ever seen either. Would have been nice to have it a little more evenly placed so I could balance the site and not have to move it so much from piles. Could have laid it out a little better, but it worked out fine. Just have to do it a little differently. Some of this product is recycled concrete product. It's a road-based product. Packed fairly well. Still reviewing it. I put it down in a couple areas this year and we'll see how it turns out. Most of the rest was just regular 1-inch crushed road base. Particular spread was one of the worst. Made some pretty big piles. He had had truck trouble earlier. He's actually a pretty good driver. I think he was just frustrated. But it was so close to the ditch that if I used the dozer without being able to angle and carry more, it would have pushed too much of it into the ditch. So by using the moldboard, I could control it a little better, keep it out of the ditch. Along with this, I've had to do a bunch of repair of plow mounts and Did some welding on the chain links for getting some wear on some of those. Lots of regular service work. I built a bracket, put a toolbox on the back of the grader, put some of the stuff, tow cable, tow rope, kinetic energy tow rope, and chain repair parts. Things that were in the cab taking up a lot of space, I can put in that box now. That's going to help this winter. Finally, we had a problem with moose tearing our bird feeders, my wife's bird feeders, down. And so I built what I hope is a moose resistant, moose proof bird feeder stand.
So this guy is
So
really
far it's
mad
working, as you can see in this video.
because he likes to tear down the bird feeders. And Tony built what we hope is a moose proof bird feeder. Yeah, dude. It's cemented in. We'll see what you can do with that. You behave.
So far the birds are using it too. Thanks for watching.